wonderful you're here. And we know you have a really busy schedule, and I guess that reflects the dynamics and activity around the topic of circularity in Europe. And so really glad you could make it. Then Dr. Liese, for those who don't know him, has been a member of the European Parliament since 1949. And for the region...
Oh. Not 49, 94.
94, I'll put on my glasses. And I know you're a really experienced person, but maybe I exaggerated that part a bit. I am correct in stating that you're from the region South Westphalia, and that you're a member of the European Parliament on behalf of the European People's Party, and that you are the coordinator in the Committee on the Environment, Public Health and Food Safety. Peter Liese is also a member of the Delegation for Relations with the countries of Central America and in the delegation to the Euro-Latin American Parliamentary Assembly. And what I also learned, but this is not in my script, is that Peter Liese also has a great interest in lighting, and that for that reason, and maybe he is also really a wonderful person to give the keynote at this Zhaga Summit. So without further ado, Mr. Liese, I would like to stop sharing my screen. Maybe you would like to share it yourself, and give the floor to yours for the keynote. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. And in fact, when I talk to my children, they are 23 and 24 years old, they think I'm an old man. Personally, yeah, I like to be not one of the oldest, and definitely in 1949, I have not yet been born. So I've been born 1965, but in fact, I was elected to the European Parliament very at young age, at the age of 29 in 1994. And you know, I'm coming from South Westphalia, as you mentioned. And in fact, in South Westphalia, the lighting industry is very relevant. They create a lot of jobs. They contribute a lot to the income in the region, and that's why I have close contacts to many of the companies that are also represented here in Zhaga. And I think it's my duty to work together with industry to create a positive framework so that you have opportunities to continue to create economic growth and jobs in the European Union. But of course, the title of my keynote speech relates also to the climate policy. I think it's rightly so that it's high up on the agenda when you talk to people what is the most important topic for the European Union. Again and again, climate is mentioned. And it's true that we are the first generation that is already suffering from climate change. When I look to the forests in my region, when we saw the droughts in the last years, the fire in Southern Europe, and horrible flooding that happened in Central Europe, Belgium, Germany, and other places this summer, we know that we are affected by climate change. And we are probably the last generation that can keep it under control. And this is due to the tipping points. We know when the permafrost, for example, in South Siberia will melt, there's a lot of methane coming to the air, and then climate change is triggering itself. The same applies to the Greenland ice shield. You know that you know, when you're experts in lighting, you know that the white color is reflecting the energy and the black color is absorbing. So when the ice shield is melting, then you have less white and more black or brown, and that will trigger another increase in climate change. So that's why we really have to act, and that's why I fully support Ursula von der Leyen, the Commission President, with her Green Deal. I had the pleasure to be around when we negotiated the EU climate law. We are the first continent that has a law which obliges all of us to be climate neutral by 2050. I think this is a real breakthrough. In the morning, we finished the negotiations after 14 hours. We started at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and we finished at 5 minutes past 5 in the morning. And we agreed on the 55% reduction target for 2030 in the European Union. The European Union was already a front runner on climate policy for the last years. We are the only continent that has reduced the emissions, but we know that we have to speed it up. For me, it's very important as a European parliamentarian that we work together in Europe and then internationally. You know, we have had an election in Germany on last Sunday. For my party, the Christian Democratic Party, it was not a big success. You know, we are only number 2 now, but still in the game. But what I regret also, not only the result, I regret that the debate was mainly focused on national politics. After the discussion with the 3 candidates for chancellor, more than 1 week ago, a colleague wrote me in the chat that the discussion is sometimes like we have a different air in Germany than in France, Italy, or even the United States. So climate change is not something that we can address at the national level only. We need to lead by example, and it's clear, for example, for Germany, we have 2% of the emissions and only 1% of the inhabitants. So that gives us a special responsibility. But even if we stop emitting now, we will not change the climate because there are 98% emissions from other parts of the world. That's why we need to work European and we need to work globally. My political group, the EPP, we suggest that we would also have a special ambassador on climate that is prominent and that deals only with international relationship. In the United States, they have John Kerry. We have Mr. Timmermans, and he has a lot of energy. And I think many proposals that he made for the Fit for 55 are very good. But on the other hand, I think we need to have somebody that only concentrates on international climate policy. We should also look much more in our international policies, not only diplomacy, but also trade policy. How can we move other parts of the world to become climate neutral? We were successful already in some parts of the world, for example, United States, Japan, South Korea, and even South Africa, but there's a lot to be done when it comes to China, Australia, and others. The Fit for 55 package includes also some elements with a strong international dimension, for example, including international maritime. In the EU ETS, 50% of the trips that start and land in a European port should be covered by the EU ETS. And I'm very proud that I'm the rapporteur for the ETS, including for this maritime proposal, but also for the strengthening of the existing ETS and the new ETS for heating and road transport. We often hear that the proposals of the European Commission are not ambitious. And I think we need to put this in perspective. It is ambitious. We were the only continent that reduced emissions from 1990 to 2020. We managed to reduce 25%, but for the next decade, which already started, we want to reduce by another 30%, which means in the last 30 years, we managed to have less than 1% a year. And in the next 9 years, we need to manage 3.3% every year. That is 4 times more than we did. And some of you may have suffered together with me the horrible discussion on putting incandescent light bulbs off the market. I was very much in favor, but I also know that it was not popular. I think it was the right thing to do. LED is now really a successful technology, and we pushed that also with the ban of incandescent light bulbs. But this is only one example that climate policy is not always easy. And that's why also this next step to 2030 will be quite difficult. We need to do it. We need to go for it. And the lighting industry is really a good example how we can do it through innovation. You have delivered a lot of innovation to the market in the last 30 years, and that reduced the emissions hugely. Part of this was triggered to the Eco-Design Directive. I had the privilege to be the shadow rapporteur of the EPP in the first Eco-Design Directive about 20 years ago. And when we look at all the implementation, we saved 1,550 terawatt hours energy, primary energy. This equals to the energy consumption of a country like Italy. And also the good thing in the eco-design regulation was that it also applied for imports. I think that's always very important. We shouldn't impose regulation to our industry that is not covering the imports. And we need to continue to work also on market surveillance, also for imported goods. In this debate on the eco-design, we also set a benchmark on how stakeholders should be involved. Before any decision is taken, the eco-design board has the opportunity to discuss it carefully so the industry can bring in knowledge, ideas, and also concerns. And the eco-design is also a good example that climate policy can go along with economic benefit. It created an extra revenue for European companies and citizens for 21 billion euro, according to the European Commission. The LED technology is a huge success story, and it helped us to improve the energy efficiency, but also to improve the quality of lighting. A problem that we see in the European Parliament, and step by step will be addressed now, is that LED technology created some challenges with the idea of circular economy, because the lighting source very often was completely linked with a luminaire, so that when consumer habits would change or there is a technical problem only with the lighting source, that created problems, that you couldn't change it, and additional unnecessary waste was produced. That's why I'm very much in favor of this interchangeability that is now introduced step by step. But I know also from my contacts to the industry in my region that it is there are some derogations where it cannot be done, and this has to be taken into account. Yeah, I want to thank you for your work, especially for your work on standardization. I think it's very, very important to reach the economy of scale, to have a real common market for the lighting industry in Europe. And I also want to thank you for your efforts in the area of light and health. I'm a medical doctor by profession, and that's why I was very interested in the scientific scientific evidence on the link between light and health. We are more and more living in buildings, And the natural light is unfortunately not what we experience in a normal day, at least in winter, when we leave the house when it's dark and go back when it's dark again. But I understand that you developed new modern technologies that adapt the artificial light to the light that comes from the sun, so that we have different quality of the light in the morning and in the evening, which will help us to perform well in the morning and the whole day, but also helps us to sleep well, because the natural light normally gives us this rhythm, and you are now able to reproduce this also in artificial light. Coming to an end, we have a very current debate, a very dramatic debate on energy prices. We are challenged with a shortage of gas, a shortage of other fossil fuels. We see dramatic pictures in the United Kingdom, but also emergencies on the continent and globally. And I think our reaction can maybe in the short run be to intervene and try to moderate the price increase. But in the long run, we need to make the case of energy efficiency and also the case of renewable energy. So when we don't want to fail on climate, we need to reduce the energy consumption, at least the consumption of fossil fuels. And that's why the Green Deal and the Fit for 55 package is even more important now than it was before. And I fully agree. I don't always agree with Mr. Timmermans, but would we have done it 5 years earlier, the peak of the gas price, the oil price, and other fossil fuels wouldn't hurt us so much. So we need to look at social aspects. We need to look at challenges that are now also for the industry. But to depend on fossil fuels and try to increase the availability of fossil fuels will not be the long-term solution. We need to invest in energy efficiency and renewable energies. And to make it very simple, the money that we spend should not go to Putin. It should go to innovative companies that produce technologies that reduce our energy bill, and to our installers. And that's why energy efficiency is even more important than it was. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Liese, for an excellent talk and showing, I must say, amazing insight into what goes on in the lighting world, because you covered many topics from energy efficiency to eco-design and circularity to light for health and well-being. And I think it's really amazing how you manage to keep ahead of these developments in this maybe little industry, although I understand that from your home country, it's an important one. And given all these global turmoil that we see. And I thank you for expanding on that. I have a question yet, because your talk expands a lot on energy efficiency. Do you think that we have the bandwidth in Europe to take on additionally these topics of circularity? And would it not also be possible to first complete the program on CO2 reduction, the Fit for 55 and the 2050 targets before moving in another element of the program?
Yeah, that's a valid question. As far as I understood, the Commission will come with the proposal to amend the eco-design rather soon. We need to put everything in perspective. So I think the priority is energy efficiency. That was for me from the beginning. And we had already the debate 20 years ago when we started with eco-design. Should circularity, should the use of raw materials and so on also be an issue? And we postponed it. I would say generally on energy efficiency, we should have been faster, seeing the increase of the energy crisis and the climate crisis. And that's why, yeah, I'm not sure. So I think it's important to, when there are trade-offs, we need to focus on energy efficiency, but the circularity is an issue and we cannot put it aside. So maybe the priority in the hierarchy is clear, but we can also do it in a parallel process, I guess.
Yeah, and maybe here the thinking is the same, that we shouldn't start too late with the circularity part, as we may have done with the energy efficiency part. Thank you very much, Dr. Lies. I don't know whether you will have time to attend also in the panel discussion that we are having after this meeting. Of course, you're kindly invited for that. And there we will have further discussions on the topic. For the moment, I again thank you, and we would like to move on with the program. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Unfortunately, I have to leave, but I'm happy to stay in contact on the issues. Thank you very much. Bye.
We definitely do that. Thank you very much. Chris, then I see you're impatiently and eager to continue with your part of the program. May I then announce to the audience, Chris, you were born in 1890, I believe. No, Chris was graduated in economics from the University of London and has worked in business development for over 20 years. And this has been in different fields such as sporting goods, renewable energy, and now the connector industry. And he joined Amphenol in 2019 as a business development manager for lighting, energy storage, and EV charging. But more importantly, we found Chris prepared to moderate the second session on the Zhaga Summit. And for that, Chris, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much, Dee, and welcome back, everybody. So the second session is the fun part of the day, where we get to see actual real projects and how they've been rolled out, and some nice feedback following the first session's principles, let's say. So the second session, entitled Circular Economy Lighting, Pioneering Use Cases, we'll have 4 speakers, followed by a 15-minute panel discussion. The goal, of course, is to make this as interactive as possible, getting the questions. And yes, you know, the more likes the questions have, as Dee mentioned, they'll go up the priority list, but we'll try and get them all in. So the first presentation will be smart city use cases, with a focus on the Zhaga Book 18. So we will have 2 speakers that will each have about 12 minutes. Firstly, it'll be Matthias Weber. So Matthias is a business development manager for digitalization and light management at Citeco in Germany. Citeco, a 150-year-old company, offers many lighting solutions, both indoor and outdoor. Matthias selects sensors and controls for Citeco, as well as training customers and colleagues in intelligent outdoor lighting. And he has more than 20 years of experience in radio systems, software, telecommunications, and automation. He's been in a position with Citeco for the last 5 years. So what I'll do is, yes, perhaps Matthias, over to you. I'll let you start sharing your screen.
Thanks a lot. I just learned the host has stopped my video. So if you could reactive that again, I would be happy. I can't start my video.
Can the host start Matthias's video? Are you able to share your screen, Matthias?
There we go. Now I'm on. Hello.
Hello.
Thanks
there.
for the introduction.
We can hear you.
I hope you can also see me. Thanks for the introduction and good afternoon to everyone. I was asked to share some practical information and use cases around the Zhaga Book 18, and of course, how that affects the circular economy and the climate debate. I'm now sharing my presentation. Can you give me a quick hint when you can see it?
Perfect.
Yes, that's good. We can see it.
Cool. So Zhaga Book 18 interfaces, they are conquering already the entire outdoor luminaire portfolio of Citeco. Not every luminaire is equipped, but all models are offering the choice to add one or two of these Zhaga Book 18 interfaces. And by the way, we name that the smart interface. For you to get an impression how that looks like, here are our LED luminaires. We have got different models. I quickly take the laser pointer here. This is the high range model, which to match the circular economy offers a lot of spare parts and replaceable parts. The mid-range with the lens technology and also our lower range, they all have got the Zhaga Book 18 interfaces by now, and you can see here how we implement them. The same applies actually for the park and decorative luminaires, and we are finding different ways to actually implement the interface there. So why actually the customer are buying it, and what is their feedback about this interface, how it helps them to tackle their climate and sustainability issues? We see that the customers really value the standardization of this interface because it ensures them the compatibility between the luminaire, the lighting controller, and also the sensors. That was what it was meant for, and the customers really take up this idea and they appreciate the standardization. We see that the customers, they like that this Zhaga D4i connections enables them to retrofit a control system. In the past, we actually built in the control systems into the luminaires housings, and now as we are requiring that they are to be replaced more easily, we can easily plug and play, exchange the control systems outside. Sensors, for example, like movement sensors on the lower part and radio controllers on the top part. And our customers are actually playing back to us that they like this retrofitting idea, because now it is more flexible for the customers to actually make the decision about the control system and the luminaire at separate times. So they, for example, can buy the luminaire now. They are preparing for the future applications, which they don't know today they will have in the future. And they can actually, at a later time, decide about the control system, motion sensors, and so on, and add them. They can also actually use the same control system for different brands, different manufacturers' luminaires, so that they can, for example, buy one control system and use it across the different luminaires they are buying. And the customers also value that a system change is possible at any time, so they can take away these sensors if they want to use them elsewhere. They can easily exchange them if they are changing the supplier, and that makes them much more flexible. We see that the lighting controls, which we can plug on these Zhaga Book 18 interfaces, they are really helping us with saving energy by dimming down the luminaires. But we have also seen that there are many more reasons by now why the customers are buying this interface. And that is lighting as required. So every town will have a square, for example, where they will need less light in the evening when the tourists are sitting in the cafes, and in the morning when there is a street market and they have the need to have more light for the lorries to find their connections, they can actually automatically switch on more light. But also today's problems in the cities, like for example, the security and safety, and also the vandalism topics, we can tackle them with this interface by installing motion sensors. And by that, we can really help the customers, the cities and companies to tackle their problems. It is to say that the biggest driver for the sales of the luminaire with the Zhaga Book 18 by now is the climate debate and also protecting the flora and fauna. So we see that most of our sales, which we are doing with the Zhaga Book 18 interface luminaires, are coming from mayors who are encountered, for example, by ecologists asking, why does this overland road or path needs to be illuminated all the night? The same applies for the park. Why does the light needs to be on at the entire night in this park? And we can actually, by selling the Zhaga Book 18 interface luminaires and control system, help the customers to tackle these problems. So what we are doing is we are recommending motion sensors here, and the customers have the possibility to switch off the light or dim it down in the night in order to have less light emission, help the migratory birds, protect the insects, and let the animals sleep in the park in the night by dimming down, switching off. And at the same time, if there is movement, they can switch on the light again with a movement sensor automatically and help the municipalities to have the road safety which they need. Also, the interface helps us to get public funding in the municipalities, because there are many programs where, for example, we need to compare the energy consumption, and the control system will help us to show this, how it works. So 2 exemplary end customer projects, which we've done recently to show that the climate debate is really arriving in the municipalities. We have one project here in Ludwigsburg in Germany, which is a little bit north of Stuttgart. And there we have installed a maximum environmentally friendly solution. There is this romantic bridge with a foot and bike path across the Neckar River. And there we have actually sold a 220 Kelvin, 2200 Kelvin lighting, which is insect friendly because of the yellow color, using the SL11 street light with the Zhaga Book 18 interfaces to the top and bottom. The Ziteco Connect 21 control, which we have sold with it, with Zhaga Book 18 peer movement sensors, that ensures a wide dimming in the night, as well as the required amount of safety in case of the traffic. It is to say that here, for example, mainly the smart interface to the bottom is used because the movement sensors, which we've sold here, they have already a radio integrated. And the radio connects the movement sensors among each other via a 2.4 gigahertz mesh network. And that actually creates additional safety and comfort by illuminating the luminaires laying ahead of the cyclists or pedestrians so that they don't walk into the dark. The lighting can be switched according to the daylight brightness, so it goes on in the evening automatically by daytime. So the customer can actually dim down the light for the insects on the river further down after 11 p.m. And of course, according to the movement, if there is a cyclist coming. It is to say that we are still using the smart interface, the Zhaga Book 18 interface on the top for the GPS controller here, because the GPS controller is feeding in the real-time clock from the GPS network, and we can actually make sure that we can dim down further after 11 p.m. And for that, the GPS controller actually needs to be sitting on the top luminaire in order to have visibility to the satellite and get the time in. The customer here preferred a local radio network without any remote access by the internet or cloud in order to avoid some ongoing cost. And that is, I would say, a major topic with our customers. Most projects we are selling with the Zhaga Book 18 actually is a local network without any connection or remote control, just for the customer to avoid any ongoing payments. The second project here, which I'm presenting, is the first thinking roundabout in Austria. The customer asked himself, do roundabouts in the nature have to be lit all night? And the answer, of course, is no. The solution which we've sold here enables the nature conservation and safety all combined. We have 10 streetlights on the roundabout, SL21, with the Zhaga book interfaces top and bottom. And the luminaires, they illuminate this out of town roundabout in the countryside from dusk on. And the control system which we've attached there with the motion detectors, that is dimming the light down to 15% at times without any movement, with the aim of the nature conservation. 7 Zhaga book 18 D4i radar motion detectors. They detect the arriving vehicles from a distance of 70 to 100 meters for the light to be illuminated in advance if there is a vehicle approaching the roundabout. And the individual movement detectors, they have got an integrated mesh radio device. So they're all networked among each other with also the remaining 3 luminaires, so that the roundabout is actually illuminated as a whole when there is movement and not every single luminaire going on individually. So also here, the lighting is switched according to the surrounding brightness in the evening. After daytime, so after 1 AM, when the traffic is getting real low, the customer can dim down further his light. And if there's movement, the light is going up again. So some lessons learned and also how to actually drive forward the Zhaga book 18 from our projects. The first lesson is that 2/3 of the customer order lights with Zhaga book interfaces up and down, not only down or up, to prepare for the future, because very often they don't know today what they will be doing with the luminaire later. So these interfaces really help the customer to keep all options open and reuse the luminaire for different use cases.
Matthias, if I could just push you a little bit, go ahead.
Okay, I will quickly close up. The largest demand stems from the public sector, not from the companies. Most customers are still in the testing phase, so they are all trying out what they can do with the interface for the purpose of the climate protection. And of course, the biggest drivers are the light pollution, protecting the flora and fauna like the insects, while at the same time, of course, ensure a high amount of the road safety. That's why the motion detectors are really a big thing at the moment. They are of the greatest interest of the customers, and I can only urge you to make use of that demand of the customer and help them to protect the climate with these motion sensors. We also see that the customers actually have additional interest to use other sensors on the smart interface, on the Zhaga book 18 interface, like for example, parking detectors or cameras. So if there's anyone among you who is producing sensors, just let us know. We are happy to sell them. The customers really like the interface and they are asking for it. So thanks a lot for your attention, and I'm giving back to the moderator.
Thank you, Matthias. Very interesting, and yes, hopefully we'll get some nice questions on those examples of projects. Very interesting indeed. So secondly, we have Valdemar Becker. Valdemar is the Global Product Manager for Controls and Smart City at Thorn, part of the Zumtobel Group. He focuses on innovation and tech management, driving connectivity in public lighting and smart cities with Thorn's Urbasense OLC portfolio. Being one of the first to work with Zhaga D4i listed wireless controller products, the Zumtobel Group is demonstrating the importance it places on standardization and interoperability. So Valdemar, over to you.
Thank you very much, Chris, for introducing myself. All right.
Yes.
So again, thank you very much, Chris, for introducing myself. It's my pleasure presenting one of our projects related to Zhaga Book 18 and sustainability. So I will jump over and start immediately with the scope of the project. I will give you as well in this phase as well the final design. We just closed one of the projects. So here we are talking about adaptability and upgradability of a lighting solution, of an existing lighting solution. Furthermore, we will jump over then to reason why. So what are the benefits for the customer? And as we talk about sustainability, energy saving, this was one of the key elements for this project. Furthermore, asset management was another big topic on that. So what was the project scope? What about the definition in the beginning of a project? So it is a retail chain in Swiss. You see already one picture. And this was one of the 3 phases. So the first phase you see here, it's a rail track going close or going into the building where they bring freight delivery in. And we had already few luminaires being installed a couple of years ago, not Zhaga D4i listed. So this was one of the tasks of this project, to upgrade those existing luminaires with the system. So this project has 3 phases, and this is another nice thing, that you really be able to do project by project and upgrade the lighting, building lighting, or building surrounds with the latest technology. This was one of the requests from the customer. Furthermore, they were looking for a wireless control being a bit flexible in adjusting the parameters, adjusting the schedule, to be able to do that remotely, especially if you know that if you block the rail or the track, you have high costs. And this was one of the key reasons why they wanted to have a remote solution. And this is what we have delivered, was based on a mesh technology. And during this project, it was interesting to see how flexible we were. During this project, the customer was requesting to integrate motion sensor to save additional energy, especially because this track is not really used during the weekend. I will explain you later on. Having this wireless technology implemented and the remote accessibility towards the installation, the customer was requesting software as a service. So that means he was requesting to integrate later on the whole CMS into the building management system, being able to control and monitor the building surrounds. So what was our design? Talking first about the Zhaga D4i luminaire, and as communicated already in the previous presentation, we have as well a big portfolio already with luminaires which are Zhaga D4i listed. And we see clearly that this listing is a seal of approval. And we see a big value in it, promoting it towards the end client. And we don't only see the interest from the public authority as well from the industry. We see a big need in implementing and providing interoperable system and being a little bit more flexible in the future in choosing the right technology. So for this project, we have delivered our UrbaSense RF controller, which was based on the Zhaga mesh. And it's another support of this standardization that we talk now about the type A and as well about type B devices. So it's easier to promote and easier to communicate towards customer who doesn't know about this new technology and the standard, how both components or both devices are interacting between each other. And this is a really big thanks to Zhaga, who made it possible to create a storyline and create the right definition on the usage of different devices. So these both devices were implemented in the later stages. And what I want to highlight here, the flexibility in upgrading the luminaire with the sensor. So during the project, the customer was asking to have motion sensor implemented to save additional energy. And we were only able during this availability issue in the market to purchase from a different vendor motion sensor. And this was helping us to deliver in a faster time and this solution and do this fast update already on site once the sensor are delivered. So now talking about some details, you see here an image of an industry or retail surround area. In the background, we have here Isaro Pro, which is our technical luminaire, and it's well designed for railway areas. Furthermore, for streets and parking, which are surrounding the area of a retail, in our case, retail chain in Swiss. We have in different fields the possibility to integrate the Zhaga up and down and really focus on the additional energy savings. So the freight transport area was defined by the end client that during the working day, so from Monday to Friday, we have, for example, from from midnight to 4 o'clock, no movement, especially because there is no goods delivery at that time. From 5 till midnight, there are fixed scheduled delivery times. And from 4 in the morning till 9, we have as well few movements. So we can only see that on this specific area of a surrounding area of the retail customer, we have big energy savings, or we have a lot of time where we don't need light. Furthermore, we got the information that on Saturday, there are only few fixed deliveries scheduled. And on Sunday, there's no delivery ongoing. And this was our assumption that we reduced the light level up to 50%. And being able by the movement sensor to reduce in addition much more energy than we were expecting. So the first estimation is that we have cost savings for 5 years around 5,000 euro. And you see it's going up with the cost savings because our estimation is the costs, energy saving costs or energy costs will go up. That is a clear indication. And the emission reduction, you can see as well, we have a big quite impact on this additional savings with this installation. So all in one, we are helping and supporting with this new Zhaga Book 18 concept, the customer to reduce the CO2 emission and leveraging the LED technology with this installation. What I missed to communicate now is that we were able to reduce the power from 200, 250 watts down to 104 watts. And together with this wireless control solution plus motion sensor, we can save in addition 30%. And due to the fact that this is a CMS controlled solution, we are able to verify our estimation in the next weeks and months and capable to give here further insights about how much do we really saved and what kind of impact we had on this CO2 reduction. Closing this, coming to the main points of the reason why, so sustainability is clearly here a key. Asset management was one of the most important points in the beginning when we talked to the customer, and he realized over this project that energy saving he can have in addition with LED installation is up to 80 to 87%. And this was helping the customer to decide quickly to integrate a soil motion sensor, especially in the area where we have low occupancy during specific times. So both are now the key driver for this project, where we continue then as well with the second and third phase. and bring an impact from the Zumtobel Group Thorn brand into the CO2 reduction of our goals. So this is it. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, Valdemar. Very interesting. Enjoyed that. Okay, so yeah, don't hesitate to shoot us over some questions. We do have a couple, but we'd certainly like some more. So if you have anything on your mind, don't hesitate to send it through. So the next presentation is titled Replaceable Linear LED Light Sources, Solutions for Future-Proof and Serviceable Luminaires, with a particular focus on Zhaga books 21 and 26. Our presenter is Michael Helskemper from Osram. Michael is Head of Product Management for Electronic Systems for Luminaires in EMEA. Before joining Osram Digital Systems in 2017, Michael had 10 years of experience managing LED luminaire projects in lighting. Michael, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. So I'm pleased to give you today an outlook towards another use case for circularity lighting, but it's still on the way to a market. And I hope that you can see my screen now.
Yes, perfect.
It's about replaceable linear LED light sources and why we think that this is a solution for future-proof and serviceable luminaires. Of course, the starting point is the introduction of the LED into general lighting. It was adopted very quickly because of some very important advantages versus traditional light sources. And to name a few, for sure, the significant energy savings have to be named, but also the intrinsic long lifetime of the LED as such. And the LED luminaires give also a lower cost base, and by that also allowing lower prices. So just to combine, are we talking about a win-win-win? I think yes. So the question is there also a but? You can say so, because at a certain moment, you also have to reflect that the highly optimized LED luminaire designs are not really designed for servicing on a component level, as well as upgrading. And I would like to explain you a little bit by making a comparison between a traditional luminaire and an LED-based luminaire with respect to their life cycle. The traditional luminaire is designed to be able to be upgraded or re-lamped many times throughout the operational lifetime. Sometimes you also replace other components like the control gear. And by this, the luminaire as such has a very long operational lifetime, can always be brought back to the initial performance level. Compare that to an LED-based luminaire, we see that at a certain moment, the light source, the LED as such, reaches an end of life. And that can be because of a failure, or that can be because the light level is not appropriate anymore. And what are we doing? We are replacing the full fixture. So that means the end of the light source also means the end of the usable lifetime of the luminaire. Although there are many components in there that have a longer lifetime than the LED as such. So if we are looking at the concept, and I'm not talking about the individual luminaire, but the concept of a traditional fixture, this is much more supporting the idea of a long-term luminaire use because of this standardized light source system that is built in. If we are talking about the standardization, then we are talking about interoperability and serviceability. And just to give you a short definition of these two terms, interoperability means simply that you can have different products from different vendors or different generations that are designed to work together. Serviceability means that you simply have a possibility to hopefully easy and safe maintain a product and bring it back to the performance level that you are intending to use it. For sure, also the availability of components that you need to bring this back to this level, like spare parts, is also helping to support the acceptance of the system. If we look at the example of a standardized lamp and the electronic control gear, then we see that there are many things standardized and also shared across different vendors And that's a standardized mechanical electrical interface, the so-called socket. It's also standardized lengths. And although there are many different versions in the market, like higher output or high efficiency, different color temperatures, or different color rendering indexes, you have the possibility to compare, and they are also very similar. And you can replace one by the other. So the question is this concept also suitable for the LED world? To define a bit the objective for a sustainable LED lighting system, we think about a solution that should be plug and play, cost-effective, future-proof, and a reliable solution that enables also end users to replace the interoperable modules to preserve the luminaire value, as I have shown you in the lifetime analysis. The system should allow for sufficient flexibility, because that's what we appreciate with LED technology, for components as well as for luminaires. Now the question is where to start. If we are looking into the linear general lighting applications like office and industry, then we see that there is also already a very high similarity between the light sources that are used for such luminaires. There is also a Zhaga book, Zhaga book 7, that secures the mechanical fit of the LED modules of different vendors. So do we have a solution? Not really when we are looking into interoperability, because there is a certain lack in the definition of the standard that does not allow a plug and play replacing of one and the other. And the elements that are mentioned here are exactly the points that are missing with respect to standardization. Light output, like flux, efficiency, but also the operation point and the electrical interface are highly flexible in this book. But if you are looking for something that is a drop-in replacement and toolless, then it's very difficult to apply this on this book. If you think about a linear light module, replaceable, you might think we have something like this. We have retrofit lamps that are simply like tube lamp, just with LEDs and also more efficient and longer lifetime. But in many luminaires, you find these linear modules, which are PCB, LED, and a connector. Let's have a look at the advantages of both systems. So on the retrofit lamp side, you see this is a known form factor, handling. We know how to fix it and to connect it. And it's also retrofitting to a large installed base. While the LED linear module is somewhat more efficient because it does not have its own optical system. By this, it is also more flexible to be integrated in the different luminaire designs, also because of the shallow form factor. And looking at the component as such, it simply uses less material. Less material in terms of quantity, but also in diversity of the different ingredients. And not to forget, it's also low cost. So if we look at the retrofit lamp, then we have to say this is a proven solution, but it is compromised by a few legacy properties that enables the retrofit character. And it's not really designed for LED technology. While on the LED linear module, we simply need to have a new concept, but this has also more potential and is also more sustainable. In Zhaga, there are currently some activities running for the replaceable and interchangeable linear LED modules. And these are contributing to 2 books, which are currently in progress to address the different LED luminaire architectures. On one side, we have the book 21, which are the linear socketable LED modules for self applications, so for low voltages, which are also safe to touch, which makes a big difference in the definition of the module. And on the other side, book 26, which is a linear socketable LED module for non-self applications. And as we all know, we're talking about linear sources. So that means we are trying to get a high similarity with respect to the mechanics, thermal, and optical requirements, because they are most of the time defined by the application and not by the luminaire architecture. Let's have a look at one of these systems. I use the example of the book 21. You remember this is the self situation. And here you see a picture where actually there is a progress or a replacement is currently in progress for a module. And looking at the module, you can see that there are many mechanical interfaces defined. There is an area where the mechanical mounting is possible in the luminaire to support it, a clamping area. There is also this area where the contacts are located to allow the electrical connection. And there is also an alignment indent to secure that the module is fitting in the right way into its counterpart, which is the electrical interface, what we also call the socket. It also gives the possibility to fix the module on one side, but that's not sufficient to keep it. So that means also the clamping area is needed. Of course, with respect to the luminaire, there is also the photometrical interface, and we're trying to allow sufficient flexibility, but also securing that in the end, the overall impression of the luminaire is secured and the specification is kept. So from a feature and benefit perspective, we are working on these solutions to be safe and easy replaceable without the need for tools. It should have a plug and play interoperability. You can play with different generations of products, or you can also change from one vendor to another one. And by being able to replace the light source, you are prolonging the lifetime of the luminaire, you are creating less waste, and by that you are supporting circular economy, and you have also the possibility to anticipate the improvement of LED technology without discarding your luminaire. The nature of the design is enabling also seamless lighting lines. And we are trying to manage everything with a very small portfolio to keep complexity down, because that's also the beauty of the traditional light sources. And we are working on 2 different lumen packages in 3 different lengths, in 1, 2, and 4 foot, and on a very cost-efficient solution. So for book 21 as well as book 26, the scope is to take the first step towards interoperable LED luminaire components to enable serviceability. This first step is targeting the mass market for linear luminaires like battens, waterproof, and troffers. Of course, there are also other applications for linear light sources, but in many cases, they are also not the best to be serviced, and also their impact in terms of quantity is lower. The moment that you are leveraging a standardized interface and build a luminaire around these LED modules, also your whole luminaire design process is simplified. You are acting according to a standardized interface, and that also helps you in the abrogation and in the late stage configuration of your individual product. On a system level, book 21 and 26 should be recognized as a system that allows this interoperability and replaceability by having dedicated logos so that everyone can identify which components are intended to be used together. We expect that there will be a wide variety of products by different vendors and a lot of options. So that means this is not a restriction in terms of how you want to use your luminaire and how you want your luminaire to perform. It should be that the light source is safe to be replaced by electricians, facility managers, or other qualified personnel in the application. So that means it is not necessary to even waste more resources by returning the luminaire back to the initial manufacturer. And by the idea of luminaire replaceability and upgradability, you are giving your luminaire more than just one operational lifetime cycle, and therefore you are enjoying more of the value that you have invested into your luminaire installation. So the claim, the Zhaga book 21 and 26 are enabling circularity lighting, is because of the different ingredients that in the end lead to a full system. We are starting from a component that is sustainable as the LED as such. We are preventing waste. We are making a cost-effective solution that is easy to handle in a toolless plug-and-play way. We are guaranteeing operability by the books that are defined by Zhaga. By this secured standard, everyone can trust that the combinations, the interoperability is given, and also that there is a broad range of vendors that are making different offers. So that means that you can rely that the solution will be also future-proof.
Michael, if I could gently push you.
Thank you. The book 21 and 26 are prolonging the use of the luminaire and preserve its value beyond the operational lifetime of a light source. So both books are contributing to a peace of mind, future-proof solution for sustainable linear LED lighting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Michael. Very much appreciated. A question did come in. I'd just like to squeeze in real quick because it's specific to you. Question is how to ensure ESD protection with Zhaga Book 21 and 26. That's
a good question. We are all used that lamps are actually not fragile to ESD. To just give you a quick answer to your question, yes, the please. LED module as such is not so sensitive than the LED alone, and for that reason we also said that it has to be qualified people. So that means it is not that the end user, the end consumer is intended to make the replacement. So some measures have to be secured to avoid that you are damaging the product. Perfect. Thank you, Michael. Thank you very much indeed. We'll move right along with it's a little late and there are a lot of questions coming in, so we want to have as much panel time as possible. So our final presentation is titled Programming Luminaire Components, Easy Data Management Over the Entire Life Cycle, Zhaga Books 24 and 25. Our presenter is Jan de Graaf, a product architect at Signify. Jan has a PhD in chemistry and a black belt in design for Six Sigma. His product architect background is in LED modules, lamps, and luminaires for indoor and outdoor applications, and for consumer and professional lighting. Jan has been working with Signify for 20 years and has been very active within Zhaga since its inception 10 years ago. Thank you, Jan. Over to you.
Thank you. Let me share my screen. I have to find it. Presentation, show all windows. Share, and then I do it on presentation mode. I think now you see my screen, right? And can you hear me clearly?
Yes, yes.
Good. So thank you for the introduction. It's my pleasure to tell you about the effort of many Zhaga members on programming luminaire components, enabling each data management over the entire life cycle of the luminaire, work that has been specified in the Zhaga Books 24 and 25. So our goal are smart and easy to service LED luminaires, both for smart buildings and cities, both for indoor and outdoor. These luminaires have the following features. They are connected, they are intelligent, they are beyond lighting, which means that they serve applications like sensing and communication. They're easy to service, they are future-proof, they are standardized, and they are certified. In this presentation, I want to zoom in on the ease to service, more specific on the data management of the entire life cycle of the luminaire. So why is that relevant? We learned today that sustainability and circular economy are becoming more and more important to society, and so also to the lighting industry. Circular economy is linked to data management in the way that data management enables to prolong the useful life of a luminaire by doing resetting over life of the settings of the luminaire, by making upgrade of the luminaire, giving it more functionality, or doing a repair case when a component is broken down. We need data management to all handle these use cases. So what data are we talking about? An increasing number of lighting applications requires configuration of LED drivers and the reading of parameters, current and timers throughout the product life cycle. Let's have a look at that life cycle. What you see to the left in the blue square is production and refurbishment stage. Then we go to installation and commissioning, to maintenance and operation, and to replace and repair. In that last phase, harvesting of parts and recycling of materials is possible, as well as disposal. And harvested parts and recycled materials can be reused again in the cycle of production and refurbishment. So what are the data management activities we are talking about? They've given here in red. So during production and refurbishment, we talk about component configuration, luminaire data, and building information modeling data. In installation, it's about project-specific configuration settings or individual luminaire settings at an install location. For instance, at a crossover, you need different lighting levels compared to an urban road situation. In maintenance operation, it's about luminaire type information, energy readings, and settings update. And replace and repair, it's about readout device history, finding spare parts, configuring data, and replacing parts in the luminaire. Having said all this, what is Zhaga going to do about this? Well, we identified the problem. The problem is that manufacturers of LED luminaires today use a variety of methods for configuring LED parameters and reading parameters throughout the product lifecycle. For instance, we have resistor methods like LED set, we have DALI, we have NFC, for instance, simple set. And the hassle for maintenance staff is that they need to manage all these methods with also different tools, which is not easy. Zhaga has worked upon a solution. The solution is that we use one programming method, which is NFC based, for both in-field as well as in production environment, covering the entire luminaire lifecycle with interoperable maintenance tools, enabling each to service configurable luminaires. We have two specifications, book 24, that's the situation at the production time in the production line. Book 25, that's the situation in the field for field maintenance using mobile NFC readers. I'll explain these books now in more detail. So at the OEM, we have a luminaire production site, and we have an NFC-capable component with an NFC tag inside. There's no need to power up such a device because NFC tag is useful also when it's powered off. Luminaire-specific parameters and vendor-specific data can be programmed inside this tag using the standardized NFC protocol, using a wireless tool that communicates wireless with NFC with the tag. And you see in the right upper corner the lifecycle picture. This is a situation during production refurbishment. Book 25 is at the location in the field, in an office, or in an outdoor situation. There we have a luminaire with a built-in component which is NFC capable, like a driver. We have now a mobile NFC reader that communicates to that driver. The data that that NFC reader conveys to the driver is given by a smart device or a vendor app that gives the project-specific settings to the luminaire via the NFC reader. The wireless communication between the NFC reader and the smart device is Bluetooth. And you see in the luminaire lifecycle picture to the right, all the three use cases where this application can be done. What I showed you is that Zhaga makes data management of the luminaire lifecycle easy with tools for the OEM installer. You have an OEM tool which works with manufacturing applications from all vendors implementing programmable devices in production. You have an installer tool that does the same thing in installation and commissioning, maintenance operation, and replace and repair. We also have a certification program that has benefits, and they rest on two pillars. One is trust and interoperability, the other one is business advantages. Certification builds trust and interoperability mainly because an independent test house checks the data supplied by vendors and whether the data is conforming to the specification. Then the certified products are traceable in the publicly accessible Zhaga product databases, and certification logos are trademarked to prevent misuse. On the business advantage side, the main message is that there is an ecosystem of multiple interoperable components provided by Zhaga specifications. And this ecosystem, that's a benefit for the OEM because he's de-risked in the supply of components for his luminaires because multiple vendors supply these. Certification program has, of course, a process in place. The process is depicted on this slide with organizations, process, pictures, and a comment. The key message here is that an independent test house verifies the data from the device vendor and makes it happen whether a certificate is issued or not, depending on the quality of the data. The message of this slide is that the process is straightforward and simple. There's no hassle or burden for the device vendor to have his product certified. This is for the NFC programmable devices, like the drivers. Book 25 on the readers has a similar flow, only now also the Bluetooth interface is part of it. And again, the same situation is there. The independent test house verifies the device vendor data to see whether all interfaces have been respected and are compliant to the Zhaga specification. Also, this process is simple and straightforward. There's no hassle for a device vendor to have his NFC readers certified. Then about the timeline of our work. Book 24 has been published for non-members and is available for the whole lighting industry from the website. Book 25 is in the progress in the sense that after the start in July 2019 and the first draft in August 2019, we are now in September 2021 with the final draft. Our plan is to issue the publication for members in November 2021 and to start certification of products afterwards. And then a year later, in November 2022, also book 25 will be published for non-members and will be readily available for the whole lighting industry, members and non-members alike. In conclusion, I showed you what problem is there in the industry regarding the data management on luminaires. And Zhaga addressed this. We have a single programming method and interoperable maintenance tools enabling ease to service configurable luminaires of the entire luminaire lifecycle. The work is documented in book 24 and 25. Book 24 documents the NFC communication between an NFC reader and a programmable device. And on top of that, in book 25, the Bluetooth interface is specified for the communication between the NFC reader and the field maintenance application on a smart device. I showed you that Zhaga testing and certification creates trust in the interoperability of NFC readers and programmable devices. Use of Zhaga certified products provides many business advantages. As shown with the presentation, Zhaga is a platform where members of the industry can work together on the next generation of circular lighting solutions. This is an open invitation to potential members in the audience to step up, become part of Zhaga and work together on the circular solutions for the future. Thank you for your attendance.
Thank you, Jan, very much indeed. So yes, if I could ask all the panelists to join, put their cameras on, and we'll fire through some questions. I won't actually start with the most popular question. I'll keep that one for a bit. I'll go straight to some of the book 18 questions that came up. This one, Matthias, I think maybe good for you to start. Now, I know you've addressed sort of movement sensors as a solution. The question is, would you see value if luminaires would be able to listen and classify sound sources in the near field and utilize derived info for luminaire control? As an example, sounds of people to shed better light on them.
Yes, interesting question. We actually see that the customers are looking for ways to switch and dim their lighting more precisely by using more and more sensors. So I can imagine that this can become more and more important. I did not come across this question yet, but I would say that if there is a Zhaga module that can do this and which is easy to test, we will test it and ask our customers. There might be many use cases around that. For example, we know, for example, that customers would like to know when there are people shouting or yelling to know if there is, for example, emergency. So I can imagine that there can be interesting use cases for that. I would assume that these are only specific points in the city where it would be used, but yeah, I can imagine it, we can sell it.
And I have heard as well that perhaps gun detection could be a solution, where if you've got sort of 3 luminaires or with a sensor, they hear a gun go off, they can kind of zoom in and actually show where the actual gun was fired. Valdemar, is sound sensors in book 18, is that something you've come across?
Yes. So we did several interviews here in Europe with experts, and we see a tremendous need for specific use cases integrating sound sensors, detecting specific information and acting based on this, like preventing with light against vandalism, For example, so going a little bit away from gunshot, but sprayer could be detected and you can illuminate up this area and prevent against vandalism, right? Which will have a big impact on the costs, and the city will have there less troubles in the future. I think we did a great job with the basics with Zhaga Book 18, and we will see in the next years more and more sensor coming on the market, and acoustic, I think, is the next one after the motion sensors.
Okay, thank you. Valdemar, as a follow-up, one of the questions, did the sensors on the monitoring of freight transportation movements help to get data for the analysis? If yes, is that data still being used for monitoring today?
Thank you for writing down this question. For the moment, we have not thought about getting this specific times to understand how often this rail was really used. So I will inform the customer to talk about that idea. It was not in my mind to have this use case available, but for sure in the next weeks and months, we are able to understand and better how often really this place, this area was occupied by a rail.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Another question, I think generally, for those of you that presented some tangible cases, what were the biggest obstacles when planning and implementing these smart, sustainable systems, technically and in terms of the business case? Matthias, perhaps yourself to start.
Yes, we see that the customers at the moment are actually first implementing these systems where they have the biggest and strongest pain points, like for example, with the climate or with safety. But we see that actually the price of the sensors and the controls are still too high when we ask our customers. So we are talking about something like €100 per light point for the hardware and the implementation today. And the customers are more looking for prices like 20 to 40 euros per light point. So we actually hope that the larger the market gets, we have more economies of scale, meaning the prices will be dropping because there are larger production volumes. And that is our hope, that the prices will go down a little bit, and that will help us to actually convince more and more customers.
Understood, thank you. Valdemar, yourself, any major obstacles that you had to overcome?
I would link to Matthias' comment on that. We need to have more players within the market to get much more offers and being a little bit more flexible. And with this, we will get enough, let's say, pressure into the market to deliver such solutions. And then quantity is coming, and we are able to decrease the price situation. And furthermore, so I miss in the market right now more devices being listed as Zhaga D4i, that we are really talking about interoperability. So the market is still quite poor, but we see already players from China joining that market with Zhaga products, but they are not yet DALI or even D4i listed. So I think this is a super important step we need to do to get really the breakthrough into the market with such functionalities.
Interesting, thank you. Another question. I think, Michael, will perhaps direct this one at you. It is easy to replace FLs in 2 or 3 years, but LED at 10 years later. Is it difficult for consumers?
Challenge is understood. It's our ambition is to make it for the consumer actually not recognizable only in the way how energy consumption or efficiency is improved. So that means we are designing the system not only with the LED module in mind, but also with the total infrastructure, also with the LED driver. And the LED driver is designed in such a way that it can follow also the evolution of performance on the LED level, so that in the end for the user it's just a replacement, and he does not have to do any adjustments. It's plug and play.
Okay, understood. Thank you. Now I have a I think Matthias, no, sorry, not Matthias. I will continue with Michael on this one. And this is a bit of a spicy question, so I think it's going to be, should be quite interesting, and then it will go out to the audience. In a nutshell, some of the features of circular economy are in conflict with each other. So if a luminaire is serviceable and or interoperable, it will contain more components such as connectors. So therefore it would be less reliable or durable. Secondly, more standards and regulation mean time and money, so complexity. And also the more interoperable a product may mean specifications are out of date. So a kind of question really in terms of the whole concept. Time, money, specs out of date, and more materials, therefore less reliable. I thought, Michael, you might want to start with that.
Thank you very much. No, for me, this is a very nice question, because in the end, it hopefully also is reflected in the way how we are designing, for example, book 21 and 26. We are not going for a module that might be contained and is offering a lot of modularity. For example, a touch protection and so on, like a retrofit lamp. I think the example that I brought with the retrofit lamp as well as with the LED module shows that we are trying to avoid additional components. And if you have the setup with the LED module, and which is actually only the PCB and the LED, and the connector that normally you have on the module is now the socket, I think in overall, we are managing to introduce a new system without adding new components and additional waste. For sure, the whole topic about modularity is a tricky one. If we are taking a lot of additional things on board just to secure the modularity, I think then we maybe did not do the job in the best way. For sure, there is a benefit and a value for the prolonged operational lifetime of the luminaire. But in the end, for sure, we have to be able to be also compatible to the way how the market is behaving, and also the speed that is needed. So whatever it should be our ambition when it comes to interoperability, it should be a release for the luminaire maker and not an additional burden.
Reinhard, would you care to comment on some of the on the same question, really?
Yeah, especially on the topic of the interoperability and let's say the flexibility also to introduce innovations. I think it's just the other way around, that the heart of the interoperability promise is that it is flexible, and the suppliers of these compliant products are able to design their innovations into these interoperable products, because they are not frozen with a specification for all features, but they are limited to just work together as intended. And this gives much of freedom and allows innovation, much more than a frozen overall luminaire, which is fixed.
Thank you, Reinhard. Thank you very much. Next one, I think perhaps Jan, this is directed at you. DALI PMD describes data in part 251 to 253, which is stored in the memory banks of the control gear. Don't we need memory banks for luminaires and light sources if control gears and light sources are replaceable?
Actually, it's a different question for the answer. Let me think about it.
Or it's I'm not sure if that was aimed at yourself.
I'm also not sure. But
yeah, let me read it again, and if anyone would like to give it an answer. DALI PMD describes data in part 251, 252, and 253, which is stored in the memory banks of the control gears. Don't we need memory banks for luminaires and light sources if control gears and light sources are replaceable? Is that does anyone?
Yeah, I think it also refers to the Zhaga book 18 and the data being made available by the D4i drivers. And we actually see that the control gear is providing this data, but of course it's not saving it. So we see that our customers are retrieving this information from the control gear to a central system where they store it. So the, I would say, regular collection of the data by a central monitoring system is needed, of course. And our customers, they don't save it in the Luminaire or in the controller, but in a central server.
Valdemar, did you want to say anything, or?
Yes, I just want to mention that the Luminaires data, which is which is stored inside the driver, has already a few data in, for example, the CCT and some other parameters of the LED module. And we just need to extend this data to provide further details about the LED board. But I think we have to rethink the concept and maybe find a new way, because if we put all the data into the driver, we just overload the driver with too much information. Even if we pull out this data once, it will be too heavy using our narrowband networks to pull out the data. Right, but the extension is a possibility to get further details on the LED board.
Thank you, guys. On the Book 18 projects that you were talking about, can you give me a sense of sort of the length of the contracts? I mean, I know that, Valdemar, you mentioned lighting as a service, but is it sort of 5 years and then perhaps the customer looks for perhaps an upgrade? Just could you give me a sense of the sort of the length of the contracts and whether you developed the solutions in-house or whether you worked with partners?
Well, the length of such projects is related a little bit to the warranty time. So 5 years is, like, let's say, kind of standard. And the extension for such projects is going up to 10 years. Because everything what is going up to is longer than 10 years. We don't believe that the product itself will withstand that long lifetime. That's electrical components, and there is a physical limitation. So between 5 and 10 years is typically such project time.
Okay, thank you. And from yourself, Matthias, would you second that?
Yes, well, the customer, of course, looks sometimes for a longer period. So we've also come across 15 years, but that, of course, means, as we've just heard, that in between we will very sure need to replace some electronic components. But it can, of course, be part of the contract that we make sure it works for 15 years and we look after the replacement in between. So very many street lighting customers are used that their luminaires are living for 20, 30 years. And of course, in the first instance, they are also looking for the controls to work that long. But when we get into a closer discussion, they quickly understand that the electronics are also in that time maybe outdated, and there will be some need to replace them in between. And I would say 15 years is about the maximum we agree on that these systems will be working. But of course, we can make sure that we find compatible products replacing it and prolonging the time, and we will look after that for the customer.
Okay. Well, thank you very much indeed. And I think that pretty much brings us to the end of our time. So yes, gentlemen, I'd like to really thank you very much for all your contributions. Really interesting. I hope the participants enjoyed. Great questions from the audience. Thank you very much indeed. Dee, I believe it's over to you, sir.
Hey, thank you for that, Chris. And wow, we heard some circularity today, from material savings, energy savings, to and we even touched upon insect friendliness as maybe the ultimate vision of inclusiveness, I would almost say. Hey, and I also heard we're only at the beginning of the circularity journey. There's still so much to figure out and so much to do. And definitely, if you're engaged by this, if you're interested in this topic, reach out to me, reach out to Zhaga, and find out how to engage further, because we need all the brain power here to elaborate this topic to the best of our, Having said that, I would also like to say a few words of thanks, of course. First of all, thanks to the speakers for preparing excellently and keeping so well to time, and but more importantly, providing us with their valuable thoughts. It's always dangerous, but here I would like to still single out Reinhard Lechler of Osram. Really, he's been not only the brains, but also the heart in Zhaga, in maturing the relation between Zhaga and circularity, maturing our position, our vision, and I would really like to thank him. And if you haven't downloaded yet the white paper on this topic, visit the Zhaga website and do so, because it's really good reading and provides a great vision for the future. I would also like to thank Chris and Annetta for moderating the sessions. I think it went really smoothly, and the conversation, the discussion sparkled, and the questions were interesting. So thanks for that. Hidden behind the screen was Axel Baschnagel, but he has organized all of this, and I would like to thank Axel for his great eye for detail and for his heart and commitment, not only for sustainability, but also for Zhaga. I think it's really well done. And then again, additionally, I would like to thank Siegfried Luger from Net Professional for making this all possible for a small organization as Zhaga. It's difficult to take on the full workload of such a summit, and it's great to have such professional help in doing this. And Siegfried, thanks for that. But for now, and I think it is also time for that, I would like to close, and closing by thanking you, the audience, for your interest and your that really encourages us to pursue on our path towards circularity lighting. And thanks for now, and I'm really looking forward to engage again on this topic sometime soon. After the real closing, you will find a few questionnaires and a small questionnaire. Please fill in the answers, because that will really help us to improve on this path and to shape the programs even more according to the way that you would like to do that. But for now, thanks, have a nice evening, have a nice continuation of the day, and see you soon.